Who is Shiva, first of all? Shiva is the supreme character. What is the inner secrecy of his soul power? Shiva is a deep silence, and that silence is God, the source of everything. Shiva is the infinity. That's why they say the lingam has no beginning and no end. Each part in the air, any neutron or molecule, is Shiva. Throughout your body, each cell is Shiva. Just chanting Shiva's mantra, you can see everything is his structure. He has no structure, like zero. In the zero, there is a hero. That is spirituality. Shiva is detachment. He always sits in the deep Vairagya stage. Shiva is an unbelievably loving soul. He's the only one responsible for all the souls and is the person to give the abilities to any soul. He's the person to give the healing abilities. He's the person to wash out any kind of bad fortune in your life. He can simply wash it out. He's the man of fire. He took that fire energy and kept it in his third eye. He swallowed the alahala, the poison, and kept it in his throat. He's the person just simply wearing the small, tiny tiger skin, having cobras on his neck, and sitting in the graveyard with ash. And non-stop, for millions of years until now, he keeps meditating. Shiva is completely free and open. Bola, Bola Shankara. Even if a crazy person meditates and does a perfect process, Shiva comes and gives the boon for whatever he wants. Shiva never thinks what type of nature you are. Shiva never cares. Just whatever you ask, he says, okay, take it. And he gives the energy. Shiva is Bola Shankara, the man of boons. Otherwise, why would he give boons and his Atmalingam to Bhasmasura, Gajasura, and Ravanasura, those huge Rakshasas? He is the number one easiest guy to reach. He's the person blessing incredibly whatever you want. He's Bola. First, he wants to play a lot of illusions. Then, once you get him, he's the person giving the incredible blessing for whatever you want. Boom. Done. That you have to understand. These are the words of Sri Kaleshwar.
Namaste and welcome to this opening Satsang and the beginning of the Shivaratri Night of Awakening process. I'm Nityaananda from the Divine Lineage Healing Center.
I'm Monika, and welcome.
Shivaratri has come around again. And it really is a night of awakening. I mean, it literally means the night of Shiva.
Yeah. And it's a night when Shiva wakes up from his meditation.
It's his awakening too.
Yeah, it's his awakening. He wakes up to wake us up.
Yeah.
And he descends, his energy descends on the earth plane, and we can experience him like no other time of the year, that one night.
Yeah, it's interesting, the lunar energy cycles on this planet are so important and powerful in determining so much about consciousness and meditation process. The full moon, the new moon. This is a special new moon. It's actually a special night, one night before the new moon in the lunar cycle. And it's a night of extreme auspiciousness. There's no other time that's so easy to reach Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we should start by asking the question or answering the question, what do we mean by reaching Shiva? Why do we need to reach Shiva?
Mm-hmm. That's a small question.
Yeah. Few millennia of research is ongoing.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll dip our toes in the water there to understand why are we going to Shiva,
Yes.
why are we connecting to him, and what is the importance for us to do that? And because as you were saying, this is a really special night, and one of the things in the energy cycles is we always need to use the energy cycles in the right way, because we can get certain cosmic energy at certain times. And during Navaratri, it's the mother's energy, and during Shivaratri, it's the father's energy. So we are going to Shiva, and we want to win Shiva because Shiva is everything. Shiva is pure consciousness. He is the eternal beingness that we all are, and he is the energy from which everything sprang. Right? We talk about that, the depth of the silence, the nothingness. That's why without the mother, Shiva is just quiet, nothing. No creation is happening. And to understand, to go back to that place of nothingness, to go back to the place before creation, we can experience our true nature before we become individual souls and we become personalities and egos, and that's one of the reasons we want to go to Shivaratri. We want to go to Shiva.
So he's so many things. That energy that we call Shiva, and we call it he,
right? And
that's okay in our land of duality that we have to maneuver through. But that form of Shiva, that silence, that stillness, that place beyond the activity of the creation. Actually, without the mother, there's no creation. But that place is a unifying place for all of us, isn't it? It's where we all actually embody that somehow. We carry that. We came from that. We'll return to that. Or Sri Kaleshwar sometimes said, we are already that. Yes.
Well, actually, we are already that. And it's the big joke or the big cosmic play, however you want to say. We are already that eternal beingness. And in fact, we don't even have to realize it, because it's not about realizing. It's already there. And there's really, that's the big joke, because that is Shiva. The mother creates this big play for him. They're quiet, they're in union, in the absolute stillness of nothingness before creation. Mother and father are in union. And then from that, Shiva wants to experience himself. And it's that aspect of himself that's Shakti. His Shakti comes out as a female energy and creates. But he is the source of all of it. And why is she creating it? And for fun.
And for discovery, actually.
Right, for him to discover.
For him to discover.
He needs a reflection. He needs, we all need reflection. We only see ourselves with reflection. And reflection takes two. And that play of two, that play of duality, is creation.
And we focused most of our lives on that active aspect of creation, the mother. Anything animated is her, and that includes our thoughts, our breath, our heartbeat, our bodies, everything. But there's a witness. There's a consciousness there. In the beginning, at least today on the planet, it seems, in the beginning for most human beings, we identify that consciousness as the mind. There's only one consciousness, mind. And actually, we believe we are our minds. But that mind consciousness is just a very small example of what consciousness is. And in this play of duality, Shiva is really carrying the consciousness, isn't it? That's when we go to Shiva, we're going to that witness.
Right. The supreme God consciousness that is the background of all of this drama, all this play. There is the underlying energy, the supreme energy, the background, the screen upon which the whole drama comes, and that's Shiva, who's the one who's observing everything, right? We're all this thing, who's watching this whole drama, and not in the whole drama of our own life. We see that what is that witness that records everything, that knows everything, that's watching every thought, that's seeing everything we do, that's seeing through our eyes, who's observing. That's Shiva. We call it beingness, we can call it God consciousness. There's a lot of names, we can call it Brahman.
Yes.
Right? Pure consciousness, it's the same. It's the underlying, eternal, blissful, boundless consciousness, steady,
and stable, and divine.
Yeah, divine,
yes.
and supreme, and that is in each of us. That is in each of us, and that's what we. But we're always, the game of life is we're looking at, we're seeing everything through the lens of our ego and through the lens of our attachments, our personality, our likes, our dislikes, our karmas, and perceiving everything, and we perceive ourselves as separate. And with our whole mechanisms of is making us seem separate and different from everything, and that's the game of the mother, separation, duality, so that we can come back. Shiva can see himself.
Attaching to an idea of the small self.
Yeah.
And forgetting the large self.
Which is the whole, that basically is, isn't it the whole thing?
It is, and somehow it's built into the game.
Yeah.
Every saint who ever lived, every enlightened character that we know anything about, and the knowledge that we practice would predict that everyone who ever did live in these 5 elements as a soul embodied as a human being came in and forgot who they were, and then went through even Jesus, who never had a previous life, no past life karmas at all, still pretty good hard work for that great soul to realize his divinity and realize that he did.
So it is a big game. The game between the father and the mother, but actually it's a game of Shiva. All of this, Shiva is the source from which we came and the source from which we are going to go. It is that oneness. It is the underlying oneness, the eternal oneness of the universe, and our being springs from that, and that is always eternally in us as us. That consciousness is, whenever we can get quiet enough, we can start to experience it, and it shines forth. And
it's already there,
and it radiates through
natural.
us, and we recognize something. When we turn our attention inward to the source, then we get back to our beingness. But most of the time, we're directed. Our attention is directed outward. Not only in the outward world, but outward in terms of our thoughts, because that's outward. Our thoughts, our feelings, our whole internal, our mind, and that's what we identify with. And so we keep the creation going, and we forget there's this deep peace and knowingness and perfection and completion, and everything is already there.
So that we say we identify with the mind as self. Who is that we? Who's identifying with the mind? And that's the discovery, isn't it?
Who is that?
And then who are we when we identify with that inner witness? There's still that we, that intermediary, which as we realize more and more as we're turning inward, as you said, that we realize more and more we are Shiva. We are that pure consciousness, Shivoham.
Yeah.
Then that we realize goes away. There's no, it's seamless, and it's also universal.
Mm-hmm.
Shiva through the silence and through the unity. But Shiva's a lot of things too.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Vedic tradition, in the tradition of Sri Kaleshwar and the palm leaf knowledge that he shared with the world, Shivaratri really talked about or exemplified many of Shiva's aspects actually, but one especially important one, and that is, it's through our worship and our devotion, our practice actually, our mantra and the yantras and the dikshas, the way we live our lives, directed towards Shiva, that is how we gain the grace of pure consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's gained by grace.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it wasn't there, but the realization of it, the embodiment of it.
Yeah. Returning to it is grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's that is the game of Shiva, to lose himself in this whole creation of the mother, and always be in relation to her in this game, in this play, until, the suffering and wanting to know what is really going on here. And that's...
It's like he chose that God, because it's not a he or a she, chose to have the experience of confusion, utter confusion, what's called ignorance, no knowledge of true self, on purpose, in order to know true self.
Right. In order to have the game, that it really is, when I remember hearing that, what is the purpose of life? And it was, thinking of something deeply significant, and it was the play. Mm-hmm. It was all a Leela. Mm-hmm. And, it seems so important, because we're in this egocentric world. We think all of this is important, and the reality is none of this actually, it exists now, but it doesn't really exist. No. It will pass. Mm-hmm. And the reality of all of our lives and all of our the problems and things we face,
attachments large and small, and beliefs large and small, everything, and
identity structures. This life will pass, and but you won't.
Yes. And what is it that doesn't pass? And that's now we're sounding a little bit like Advaita characters, but this is where Shiva is where Advaita and Dvaita come together too. Of course, it has to be.
Yeah, because the eternal is formless.
Exactly.
And it's oneness, and whatever is happening in our lives and whatever has come and gone, and it's just another image on that screen. And yet while we're in that, we don't know that. So we have to get out of that and recognize that we're what's behind it. And but that is all the play of the mother and the father. And but once you're tired of the game, you're tired of
one of the purposes of suffering, you get tired of suffering. You get tired of that aspect of this creation.
Yeah, and you get tired of doing this, going round and round and round in the same, and not knowing what is happiness. What is real happiness? Because really our search is always for happiness. Whatever we're doing, we're trying to find happiness in our lives, and our tendency as separate characters is to look outside, or in our minds, or outside to experiences or people, or the fulfillment of a desire, or to avoid things that are uncomfortable, So rather than, we're always in a game of that kind of push and pull with the outer world, and thinking we're going to find our happiness in those things, until finally we realize we don't.
Right.
And then we're looking for, where is that true happiness? Where is that something that's not temporary? And then we start to search, and the search starts, and we have to go within. Because we can't find that. We can find that in the outside world if we're aware of that place inside ourselves. Then we can experience that also outside. But if we keep looking for it outside, we come to the same thing again and again,
Or if we have any requirement that the external circumstances be any specific way at all.
which is usually what we do. We want
Right.
it to be a certain way, and we
Right.
don't want it to be another way.
Mhm.
And that's our that's the nature of the human mind, and we keep finding enjoyments in life. We do find enjoyments in beauty and in relationships and love and satisfaction or
An
different
accomplishment.
an accomplishment, all
yes.
those things. But it's only a shadow or a reflection of the true bliss that's there.
Mm.
And that bliss is inside of each person.
Mhm.
And that is the Shiva nature, that's inside of us. And we have to turn our attention to the source of that in order to find that everlasting bliss that we're actually on the, looking for
Right.
throughout all the things we're doing.
Right.
And it's Shiva who brings us to that.
Yes.
When we,
Yes.
like the mothers, it's like, okay, the mothers, finally we say, I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want another relationship. We're thinking I'm going to find happiness.
Yeah, I don't want to try to make more money.
More
to get
money,
happy.
or, all these things.
Or get a better name and reputation to be happy. All these, we disconnect that. And Sri Kalashwar called that the first stage of enlightenment. The first step in enlightenment was realizing that the answer was not outside you.
Mm-hmm.
Often that's very disillusioning. There's despair and depression because we don't.
Because we
Right?
don't know.
I mean, we all know that.
What's
All
inside.
spiritual, exactly.
Right.
You realize fundamentally, I'm not going to be made happy by what's outside me.
Right.
But what is there? What else is there? And then that naturally is the turning inward.
Mm-hmm. And then the whole world opens up when we
Yes.
start turning first within and, meditating and turning within. And this whole world starts to open up, and we get Shakti. And, that is the mother's journey of awakening our Shakti, because she's taking us back.
Mhm.
That's really what she's taking
Exactly.
Shiva back to himself, And once
Which is her great joy.
exactly.
She's not against enlightenment. She's not. The Maya has its own purpose, but it.
Right. No, that exactly. She's all of to each of us. She is, each of us is Shiva to her, and so she's looking at all of us that way. And when she's giving us this incredible game, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even say what kind of Maya this is that makes this universe, this creation, which is not solid, appear so solid.
Exactly.
And us who with our very strong sense of personality, identity
Exactly.
is actually, just another,
Just putting on another shirt for the day,
like
another set of clothes.
right. But you have to be at a point. You have to be really fed up with that, and that's Shiva's state. He's that's why when we start to think of him in his form, he's the formless absolute. But he also comes into form, which only happens through the mother's energy, because the mother she gives
animated.
everything form and animation, but he comes, and his whole story is a reflection of all of those things, of all the embodiments, but it's in form, and so we see him, you see his characteristics, which we'll talk about.
In incarnations of Shiva, such as Shirdi Baba.
Right, such as Shirdi Baba.
Or Sri Manjanata, whose life is going to be outlined in a lesson in this course, actually, for that exact reason. It is the poetic manifestation of those aspects of that unified energy through the lives of these Shiva characters.
Right, and how they embody that and express that, when they describe Shiva, they auspiciousness, like the infinite or auspiciousness, like everything that's good, everything that's auspicious and great is Shiva. There's nothing not auspicious about him, even if it looks like he's doing something that, destruction.
We don't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all auspiciousness, and so, but then we start to study some of those characteristics when he's in the body, and that helps us to understand the state of consciousness that he's leading us to. We could say they're leading us to, really, because it's a mother and father game, And it's both of their play that bringing us back home,
Because it's really about stepping towards more and more that unified, that source consciousness, that Shiva consciousness, through stages of consciousness, right? Through experiences of consciousness. We go through different stages of what we call Shiva consciousness. There's different states, and he's the master of the consciousness, the pure samadhi, the pure equanimity, the pure... And so through practicing that in the 5 elements, we're doing exactly that. We're in the 5 elements. That means we're in her. We're mostly her. She's interacting with us and helping to develop that state of consciousness. Yeah. It's very easy to be very peaceful and with equanimity and love for all on a desert island. All the food you need,
by yourself.
Good AC, exactly. Very few around. Without
right.
There's circumstances that would be very easy for most people, whatever they might be, to find that kind of inner peace. Okay, that's an introduction to a Shiva state of consciousness, that stillness. Then, okay, do that in the middle of a householder's life with a spouse and children and financial responsibilities. Do that with a physical disease. Do that with poverty in your life. Do that with wealth in your life. What are all these different circumstances that I just mentioned have in common? They're all the mother. And they're all the mother giving opportunity to challenge our state of consciousness. And in doing so, we develop it. It develops. This Shivaratri is a time between this program from now until Shivaratri is a very powerful time. All the practices that we do to try to develop these, to work more towards these Shiva states of consciousness. Because this is the time that Shiva demonstrates another one of his characteristics, and that is his giving nature.
Yeah, his giving nature. It's so beautiful when Bola, like freely giving, without any cause. Actually, they say he's a causeless giver. He gives
great?
For no reason. And you can really see like he's just that's his nature is he's and also easily pleased. Which is very helpful for us because. I know we could tell some of these stories. Even putting one bilva leaf or one drop, offering one leaf onto a Shiva lingam, or he's happy with that. He's easily pleased, which is also pointing to a state of consciousness for us, because when we are that simple and so easily pleased. With like if every little that kind of nature, right? That gratefulness, that contentment, that generosity, easily pleased with anything that's given to anything. That kind of simple, innocent nature is Shiva, and when we have that, we reflect that nature. All of these qualities, we also can develop, and then we experience that that in ourselves. And one of them is that easily pleased, and how which is so.
It's become more and more Shiva-like.
Yeah.
Man or woman, it's not really gender related.
No.
It's consciousness characteristics. But it just is immediately reflected in our behavior, isn't it? When we're still inside, then we are different to be in the creation with.
And when you're connected to the source of happiness, or the source, you're looking inside for that, then you're not constantly searching on the outside in the same way, and you're so desperately looking for whatever it is. And
that really is the root of all of the searching on the planet, is ultimately everyone's searching for meaning, everyone's searching for definition and for identity. And happiness has to be in there, because
happiness is the first. Everyone's looking for happiness, and it comes with identity. But happiness is what everyone's looking for, and happiness is our own nature. So we keep looking everywhere else, but where the source of it is.
Have you seen my glasses anywhere?
No. It's like the story of the musk deer. The musk deer is traveling through the forest with this incredible musk, because actually they do emit this incredible
priceless fragrance.
It's so beautiful, and they keep searching for it. And They have it.
They are it.
They are it. And that's us, you know. We have this incredible fragrance and beauty, and what that Satchidananda, you know, that is Shiva, that the eternal truth, Sat, Chit, which is consciousness, aware of itself, and Ananda is bliss. And that's our nature. And Shiva brings us to that. So when we say like that, easily pleased, it's like, yeah, when we develop that simplicity, and really that means we're experiencing the joy in ourselves. And instead of constantly looking outside, then we're getting closer to that. And so he demonstrates that with his, and also his he's not easily pleased and totally accepting. Like when we,
non-judgmental of all.
When we think of Shiva in the stories with the Rakshasas and Ganas, you know, he's dancing with them, he's spending time with them, they love him, and it's like, what is that about?
Yeah.
You know? And
these are otherwise, in the Vedic tradition, criminals and drunkards and people who get in fights and people you don't want to hang around with.
Right.
And Shiva hangs out with those characters.
Out with them. What is that about, right? And like, okay, he's accepting of everybody without judgment, which is also the state of when we look at witness consciousness. If we're really in his consciousness, looking at ourselves, if we are in and looking at whatever it is that we've done, you know, or any action we've done, then we can just see it without having all of the judgments or, you know, like, oh, this is bad, oh, I did that, and that was really bad.
And that actually is a mechanism of purification, witness consciousness. Yeah. And in that way, Shiva purifies us through the consciousness of our own Shiva nature. Or you could say we purify ourselves. Consciousness is purifying, though.
Yeah. And that consciousness, which is detached, non-judgmental, it's not making any assessment, because to Shiva, there is no good or bad, because to consciousness, there is no good or bad. Right. You know,
it's all her illusion. It's all, I mean, that's another one of his, he has so many different states of pure divine consciousness, but one, he just sees everything as her illusion, and he actually is not disturbed in the slightest by anything, whether the most monumental positive or the monumental negative.
Because he knows, you know,
it all comes and goes.
He knows
and it's
what
all
it
gone.
is. It's an illusion. Yeah. You know, and that's, so he can, and what is he meditating on? He's meditating on her.
Right, of course.
He's
because
just
he's not
watching.
Whole without her. You know, when there's a he to do anything, then that means she is she's made the creation, and then they're separate. Right. In that story of he and she, until they're just one, then they have to be like, what is she always? She's acting.
He's watching
with his attention, and
he's watching everything,
and
observing
he's watching everything.
And that's his. But the thing is, he's watching everything that's him.
Yeah.
It's you know, all of the forms in the world are Shiva.
Yes.
And he's become the multitude. He's become everything. And by observing that, he's watching her whole creation. He's watching himself. But there is no judgment there. There is no. It's just pure observation. And that's why, like you think with the Ganas, it's like, of course, that's why he accepts all, and he loves all. Yeah. And you know, we can see that embodiment in Shirdi Baba and in Jesus, who were you know, Shiva,
who were
characters, and how they lived with, you know, all of the with the untouchables, with the, you know, the prostitutes, the money collectors, and you know, that is the Shiva nature, and that is also to see. And that's also another aspect of the consciousness, right? Is to be able to see everyone is that.
Yes.
You know, good or bad. Everyone is that. And that equal vision that Shiva has is what we need to develop.
Yes.
That's how we experience ourselves as Shiva, when we start to see that each person is the embodiment of that consciousness, you know, whatever they're looking like, whatever their
equal
reaction.
Vision. That's a great definition of equal vision, is seeing that the equality of all in front of us, and that equality is divine. That equality is God, literally.
Yeah,
Shiva.
and that having that observation, you know, and by us developing that, we're accessing and experiencing that aspect of Shiva consciousness in ourselves, and that is also the way of us. The whole point of us is what we need to do is access that and live in that. Part of this program, which we'll go into, are 2 dharanas that we're going to do along those lines. Because that's another way of how can we access that in our daily life, moment by moment, and develop that so more of the Shiva state is expressing through us. You know?
Yeah, this program, everything about it is designed to bring us through practice, through meditation, through formulaic prayer, mantra, and diksha, doing it at certain times or doing it with others in the same time. Also through energy transmissions during these auspicious times. And also through dharana, which is really a deeper concept when it comes to practice to reach that Shiva consciousness. So please tell us a little bit about dharanas. That's an ancient concept.
Yeah, and actually, Swami he didn't call them dharanas, but he sprinkled them throughout his teachings, really, and like Soham, for example, is one of them, and he gave that. But I'll read a little bit for you because it's very beautiful how they came about.
I'll take those.
You have these, okay? Yeah. All right. So Shiva is also the one who gives the knowledge. You know, we know Dakshinamurti. Yeah. Shiva is the first guru, the supreme guru. So it's a very interesting. He comes in the creation, then to lead, because it's the guru who leads us out of the illusion back, and
he comes to round up all those pieces of himself.
I know, it's an amazing game, isn't it? But throughout the there's a whole bunch of scriptures that were revealed scriptures that the mother gets from Shiva, and Shiva, the mother questions him.
Yeah,
and like the Guru Gita is another example, and the Kashmir Shaivism, the Shiva Sutras, are all of these are the mother asking the answer to asking Shiva for how to get back to that state. And what's interesting is because we know she knows.
Yes.
Then she's also playing that. You know, that's also part of the game. They're playing their dance, and she's the one who asks him. And out of that, and it's so beautiful how he gives her all this knowledge because she's asking those questions really for us.
Yes, that's right. That's how she gave them to us, actually.
So the dharanas that we're going to do from this program are from the Vijnana Bhairava, also a text from Kashmir Shaivism. And in it, it starts out like this. The goddess, the Devi, asks, "O Shiva, what is your reality? What is this wonder-filled universe? What constitutes seed? Who centers the universal wheel? What is this life beyond form? How may we enter it fully above space and time, names and descriptions? Let my doubts be cleared." So she's asking him, how can we go back to that state of God consciousness? And in this particular text, he gives 112 dharanas, which are these, they are awareness centering techniques. They're very simple, you know, but they bring our attention so that in any moment we can bring that center back and we can experience this consciousness. So there's these doorways in the nature that we can reach that, have an experience of that, right? Mm. And so I'm going to just go into this now because this is it's helpful to us because of what we were just talking about.
So it's a form of meditation.
Yes.
You could say of focused use of our awareness, mm-hmm. but it's a practice like saying Om Namah Shivaya as a mantra. It's a practice doing this, which actually brings purification and development of Shiva consciousness.
Yes. But the practice is usually very subtle. Mm-hmm. So it's an awareness technique, so it helps bring us, like for example, I'll show the first one. We have 2 dharnas in this program, okay. And one dharna is imagine that the whole akasha, the sky, is situated in your skull. Mm. Imagine your skull is as broad as the sky. Imagine your skull is filled with the state of Shiva, the consciousness of Shiva. Mm. So like you're sitting in meditation, and the idea is just start to visualize and see and feel that your mm-hmm. head is the sky. Mm-hmm. Now we know Shiva is considered the sky element, right? Mm-hmm. He's, and so you could see experiencing that Shiva is the sky. It's the whole space that all of this. Without space, there would be no place for the creation. It has to happen in space, and he's that space. And how we experience that space inside ourselves. Mm-hmm. So that is one way that we can do that. And it's just really, it's a beautiful technique, and we can feel our expansiveness. And you can actually do it, for example, you could do it outside, and then you really can feel your consciousness moving through the entire creation. Mm-hmm. It's as big as the creation, because you are as big as the creation. Mm-hmm. Our everything, each breath that we take actually extends to every corner of the universe. Mm-hmm. But we're just not aware of that. We're so centered in what basically our mind, mm-hmm. that we're not aware of that, which is why we can, send something over a long distance, and but we're not in touch with that. So this helps us get in touch with that. Then this other dharana. So there are 2. So that one's one you do in meditation. Mm-hmm. And this one is a way of walking through life and interacting with people. Okay. Feel the consciousness of each person as your own consciousness. So leaving aside concern for self, become each being. Mm. Feel the consciousness of each person as your own consciousness. So leave aside concern for self and become each being. Now we talked about Shiva as having equal vision because he sees mm-hmm. everyone as him. And that is the vision that also for us to develop, so we recognize that is the reality that we're perceiving. So when we approach the first approach to each, having that awareness when you're talking with someone that is a conscious being. Just even that, it's a conscious being. What does that mean? That they're experiencing what you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. The same thing you experience, they experience. Mm-hmm. And when we start to have that awareness, it opens our hearts. Mm-hmm. It makes us connected, and we start to feel what is that connection, right? And this dharana is so great. You could say, what was Jesus saying to us? He was saying, love everyone. Right. See everyone. Actually, there's a beautiful way that I like this translation of the quote. But anyway, that Jesus was saying, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Mm-hmm. And that is one way that opens up, because we can see the teaching. We can see Shiva throughout Jesus' teaching.
Absolutely.
And what he's saying is, we have to also see everyone else is that, not just ourselves, but we have to experience that. And one way is really just to practice that, just to practice that all the time. This is that consciousness in each person. And then we develop that. You know, there's this incredible, research science that's come out, and it's called mirror brain waves or something like that. I don't know what they call it exactly, but they did studies. So when we're watching anything outside ourselves, when I'm watching you and you're scratching your head, you know, or you're jumping in the water, the same sensations in my brain, the same synapses are happening in my brain. So that's why when you see people, you know, in a sports game going crazy, and they're really filled with emotion and they're doing it, is they're really feeling those things. Just seeing that in another person, you seeing it yourself, they discovered that in the brainwaves. So that really, you really get. And then when you start watching movies and different things, you'll start to see that.
You want to program your brain with that sadness, or
right, but it shows our connectedness.
Yes, exactly.
You know that.
There's no way to be separate.
There's no way. You know, someone jumps in the water and you're feeling it.
Yeah.
And so your brain is feeling it. Your brain is reacting in the same way, and that helps us to understand, like, to get that. Wow, each person is an extension of ourselves. You know, now science is coming to find that, but the more that we develop that, the more that we're in our Shiva consciousness. And so approaching everyone that way, and it's amazing when you do, actually. It's because
these dharanas, they're not just for, you know, like to calm down in the moment or to become peaceful in the moment. They lead to real experience.
Right.
And that experience leaves us changed. You know, we call it purification, whatever. A lot of ways we can look at it. It is mechanistic somehow, but ultimately the goal is the growing of our self-awareness, our true self-awareness. Yeah.
And how to bring that through each and every, you know, that's the point.
We can carry that in our life. We can look at during this time, we look at every time we're engaged in any kind of interaction with another in a completely different way. You read it twice, which is good. You know, put down self-interest. This is the most basic kind of ego self there. Just simply look at that person you're interacting with and try to remember throughout it that they are a sentient being just like you. That their consciousness is just like you.
Yeah.
And that will change things.
It does change things. And the more that, you know, spirituality, how do we maintain that? You know, because you have amazing experiences in meditation, or maybe even have, you know, amazing divine experiences and so on. But how do we keep that consciousness all the time? And you see how many times we lose it during the day. Once you start to be aware of that, then you really start to see, I got absorbed in this.
That lasted 5 minutes. That great, amazing awareness lasted 5 minutes.
And then, you know, I got caught in this, or I got, and you lose that awareness, you know. And how do we keep bringing that back?
Yeah.
And that's the point. So all these techniques are different ways that we practice that as we're going about our life. And the point of it is that state, or that is in everything. You know, the Mother Shakti is in everything, and Shiva's consciousness is in everything. And through every Shakti, everything is there. You can gain the Shakti and go and you can experience Shiva. You know, if our mind is not in the past or thinking about the future, you're in the present moment, you can really experience that. So, like, for example, you see a incredible sunset. Just paying attention, and you'll feel that, oh, what is that? That is that. You're just in the present moment experiencing that incredible beauty. That is you experience the divine energy in that, you know, and we have to keep finding that through all these different things in our life and in nature. And then we can be established in that state, which is the goal, to be established in that.
Right. When we're really truly in the moment now, we are very close to that Shiva consciousness, that pure witness consciousness. Shocking things, are often enlightening in that way. You know, there's a
Bring us
concept
in the present
called
moment.
smashan vairagya. Smashan refers to a funeral or a death. And there's a Shiva state of detachment and also of clarity of that's illusion, that's meaningless. Where is the purpose of my life? That in many people, the experience of death will bring up for a while anyway. And some people, it changes the death of a close person, an unexpected death. Even sometimes it can be the death of a stranger, can bring that Shiva consciousness to bear. And that is a state of enlightenment.
Yes, that's right. And in those moments like that, you know, you're detached. Exactly. It shocked you. And you're just detached from...
You see the impermanence of that. You see the impermanence of your beliefs, your expectations, your aversions, whatever. It can evaporate in an instant. And these practices, why we're doing this program and why we're so happy everyone's joining and practicing with us, is to accelerate this self-awareness as this Shiva consciousness, this unity consciousness that we all share. And using formula, using like those teachings you gave, they're really great. They sound wonderful. And they're also ancient, beyond time and divine revelation. It's not somebody just thought and made this up. They have real effect in this field of karma of our life. The mantras that we're going to be practicing, the dikshas we're practicing, the ceremonies and that we're going to be performing, and generating energy together for this purpose. And then the Shivaratri day and night itself, which if you don't know anything, if you just stumble in the right way and you accidentally do a formula of a process that Shiva recognizes, you get the results.
I know.
Now we're implementing information and formulas which are proven over time that we don't even know how long it is. The time from the palm leaf knowledge that was transcribed, hundreds of thousands, whatever the years are, all designed and proven to reach the Shiva states of consciousness and develop that in ourselves. So this is what we have in store for us for the next week or whatever it is until Shivaratri night and day.
So speaking of that, because let's talk one more aspect of Shiva,
Yes.
which is Shiva is the one who can take any poison, right? Because now that's part of the process. Is if for those who want to do it on Shivaratri night, there are the Shiva purification channels. They are the incredibly powerful prayers.
Directly from a palm leaf manuscript.
From a palm leaf manuscript that can only be done on that night.
Yeah,
of the
only
year.
on that day. That 24 hours is the diksha is you only do.
You don't even
practice another time. You just do it only then.
Only then, and it can just do extraordinary things to remove karmas and negativity, and that's Shiva. Shiva
that's a Shiva characteristic.
He's the story of him drinking the poison, at the churning of the ocean, is because he's the one who can handle that. And he's the one who takes that. The alahala is, there's all this alahala covering the soul. And that needs to be removed. Then you find the Shiva state of consciousness that's there. But first the alahala, all of the things that we know.
The false
fear,
identities, everything.
Yes, the fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt, self-hatred, all of these terrible things that we hold on to, illusions. Shiva's the one to take them, and especially on Shivaratri.
Yes.
And so that's a time we can really implement that energy and okay, it's now time. We can really, what are the things that we want to really address? And it's like, okay, it's time.
Exactly.
Let's.
And if you're able to block your schedule as much as you can on that day and night, that 24 hours, the diksha of that time cycle is sunrise on the day that becomes the night of Shivaratri until the sun rises the next morning. And traditionally, and today too, millions of people around the world will be staying up all night to utilize this energy.
Yeah.
It's so auspicious. Like I love, everything about Shiva is auspicious. I mean, this auspiciousness is his name.
Right.
Everything is there.
Right.
And it's so auspicious and so easy.
Right.
So simple. Really, in the world of today's spirituality, it's a very easy night to receive huge blessings, to release a lot of negative karmas to be
Right.
fully free of. You'll be free of them.
Right.
And to gain that Satchidananda, which is your true nature, which is our true nature. That the way Sri Kalashwar put it in the very first Shivaratri that I ever even knew the word Shivaratri,
Mm-hmm.
he said, tonight in the universe, millions of saints are all turning to Shiva to receive the Amrita, to receive the consciousness.
Right, to receive the Amrita,
Yes.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. And he meant not just this planet. You know,
Right,
he was,
right,
he's,
right.
you know, all over this all over this universe.
Yeah.
Because it's Shiva Lokam Avapnoti from the Sky Prayer. Shiva Lokam Avapnoti means the realm of Shiva is everywhere. But also, I mean, and you could say that in the way that they do in beautiful way in the East, that Shiva is in every atom, every electron, every proton, in all the space of every atom, that everywhere you look, you will find Shiva.
And place, if you look inside, you'll find him there. And really, that's having that awareness too. We want to make sure, just keep turning your attention inside and realize Shiva is in you. Shiva's consciousness, Shiva. That being, your beingness is Shiva. And you don't actually have to attain anything to get that. It's your nature. You came with that. You are that, you know. And
you don't have to earn it or be good enough or deserve it or have enough money or anything like that. Look like anything, be any age.
So, you know, always thinking that's who I am, despite whatever, you know. And the more detachment, that is another quality we want to talk about. There's so many of the auspicious qualities, you know, but that important one, because Shiva is the only person in Stita Pragnata and Vairagya, you know, and that to understand that, if we develop that ability to be, not to be to be happy whether things are going our way or not going our way, to be happy whether, not to be, you know, whether we have fame or defame, to be in the same state. You know, you're not running away from the defame and you're not grabbing the fame. Whatever is, either way, it's equal, you know, and good and bad, all of those things. To have that state of balance and equanimity inside, that we're going to the source of, actually, can I read let me read something from that, because we've also been studying the Bhagavad Gita and here, and this is from the Bhagavad Gita. It's actually the part of the dialogue that Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna is teaching Arjuna at the battlefield because he doesn't want to fight. And all the big teachings come, but then he answers, Arjuna asks the question, what is a person like who has steady wisdom, or stita prajna, who is that stita prajna, the stita person? What does it look like? You know, how does he sit? How does he stand? How does he act? And, you know, because the reality is that kind of person, you might miss it because it doesn't necessarily look so extraordinary, right? It looks, you don't, unless you have the eyes to understand it, you won't necessarily see it because it's not an outer glorification in any way. You know, it's an inner state and approach to life, right? But living in that, what is that to live in that?
And Shiva really is the main character to exemplify what Stita Pragnata is. And in this case, even though it's from the Bhagavad Gita, it's describing that state of consciousness.
Right. So he finds joy and satisfaction without anything external. His steadiness and wisdom are not dependent on external circumstances. what are the signs of one who has conquered his mind? His self remains steady and unperturbed in heat and cold, fame and defame, gone beyond the opposites, whose mind is functioning at a non-negative level, calm and tranquil in the midst of pain and pleasure, honor and dishonor, takes both equally. His mind is not affected. He has subdued his senses. A lump of earth and a bar of gold are the same. He is neither tempted nor rejects either one. Even-minded on friend and foe. He loves not only the good, but also the evil. He doesn't blame anyone. He doesn't create suffering and injury through his actions. He sees the divine spark in everyone. His mind is like a flame without a wind. Gives an idea. You know,
a clump of earth and a bar of gold is the same.
Yes.
On today's planet, that's a pretty strong place to be.
That's right. Yes.
And
any of these things in this day, because you see how much we can say the mind of the masses is not under control, and those qualities are not present.
No.
That we're seeing. That's why it doesn't. It looks ordinary, but it's actually quite extraordinary if you think of of that state of equanimity and balance, and really.
It doesn't mean a state of inaction, though. From that state, there's still activity,
Absolutely.
but it's the relationship to the activity that's fundamentally different.
Yes. It's like the Bhagavad Gita is about being in the world. It's not about going into the cave, and finding your peace in the cave. It's about finding it in the world, the peace in the world.
Right.
And, with all the beings, you're seeing all the beings as divine, as a spark of the divine. So the world, it's not separate, and it is that oneness. It's the state of Advaita is really what Krishna is speaking about.
Yes.
It's what, of course, is what Shiva is leading us to, that oneness.
That's what Shiva is.
Shiva is oneness,
yes.
And so Stita Pragnata, like Swami had said, Stita Pragnata, that a saint is Stita Pragnata. A person not in Stita Pragnata is not a saint.
Right, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Yes.
You can, and you also said that Stita Pragnata was the entryway into the Anandas.
Yes, the first Ananda.
The first Ananda. And we can see that when we develop that, right, then we're tasting our own joy. And we're going to focus on our own joy rather than be swayed by the circumstances outside. And so we're already turned in the right direction. And so, the more that we develop that and are established in that, which is the practice. And I, at one point, Swami said, if you can be established 80% of the time,
it's enough.
It's enough.
Because it becomes self-fulfilling too.
Yeah.
Once every part of us recognizes the value of that way of using our awareness, even the mind gets on board.
Yeah.
Like, well, I could judge that person, or I could judge myself, or I could be in peace and bliss. And once you get that's really a choice, then you don't need to remember it.
Yeah. Right. It means you have some control of your senses.
Yes.
That control. So we're not always going to whatever whim is there. And so developing that.
Yeah.
And that is also the leads to vairagya, which is complete detachment. And that is the state of Shiva, which is essential for us to live in, right? And one of the beautiful techniques in the Shiva Sutras is to be in that state of detachment and look at your life. Look at whatever instances of your life where you're stuck. And where you have pain and where you have sorrow, look at them. But look at them from that point of view, from that detachment. Yeah, and from it's really Shiva's state. When you do that, you can do that, and sometimes it takes a number of times if it's a really strong impression.
Yeah.
It heals it.
It heals it.
It heals it. And you
decharges
come
it.
back to your original state. So it's only because those things we haven't looked at, we're afraid
Or we can't see it without attachment. We just get all angry all
Well,
over again,
that's
and we
it.
feel guilty all over again.
Right, exactly. We have all the judgments that we have for whatever action was there. And it's like, Shiva doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care. That's not how he's looking at it.
It's not even a pretense. He really doesn't.
No, it's only our ego that's doing that. Our personality, our attachments to those things, and our identification with those actions, because
that's actually, I think, the main thing is that we identify as that.
Yes, and we've identified so much with our actions that when we've done something and then of course it's much harder for us to release that and be free of that. But that's our job. And if we want to be in the state of Shiva consciousness, we need to do that with our whole life and even live our life like that. So at the end of the day, and you can look at everything and
That's
be
another
free
da-da-da.
and just look, and it's like, okay, until you're free. You have no residue of anything that happened, of any negative thing. And it's like you're fresh and new. And we saw Swami, he was such a master in that.
Yes.
It was so...
Staying fresh and new, staying unencumbered, but really it's staying unattached.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean like irresponsible.
Or it doesn't mean not engaged in the world.
You can't depend on someone.
No,
it's not.
no.
It's not like that.
No.
That state was preparing Arjuna for Krishna, and that teaching was right before a huge battle was about to happen, and a lot of people were killed, and Arjuna killed a lot of those people, and he didn't want to until he understood the teachings of that. We're not killing people, we're creating positively, but we're still acting. But somehow that posture, that Shiva consciousness through first Stita Pragnata allows us to act fully with clarity and actually with peace, because we're not as conflicted as we are usually, without being attached fundamentally to the outcome of what we're doing. You want to write the greatest book, you put all attention to it, but you have literally, it's the same to you whether it's a bestseller or whether it can't even get out of the computer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
freedom.
And that is literal, what we're saying. That's the practice. That's the literal practice.
That's the literal practice, and that's freedom.
Yeah.
And that all of those other things are that we're wanting the results for something. We want it to go this way or that way, and it's not that we can't want things to go that way, because yes, we have sankalpam. Yes, right. We have sankalpam. We definitely want things in the right way, but we can't be we can't hold on to them. We have to have this attitude like want and don't want. That's how Swami would put it, which meant like you have to not grab it. It's like, okay, if it happens, it happens. You still have to have that, or when it happens,
you work
or how
for
it happens,
and whatever happens is fine.
Right, it's in the hands of the divine.
But that's important to note too, is that we don't lose that desire, we don't lose that ambition or drive towards something. Of course, we keep the discrimination, and we develop it even more and more through this process of what is dharma, what is light, what is right, and what is adharmic, what is evil. Because there is evil, there is darkness. It's not that we say that everything is relative. We're working towards the light, and we're doing our very best, and we want that. But if it doesn't happen, we just keep working to something else. It's a very subtle thing, and it's hard to get in today's world, but it's very important that we do. Otherwise, we're attached to the results in a different way. If you and I are practicing the exact same project to try to create something, but you're detached in that way, and I'm attaching as a doer. If it's good, then somehow I'll feel good.
Right.
And if it doesn't go the way I plan, then somehow I'll feel bad. Then we get the exact same results, whatever it is, good or bad. You're not connected to the karma of that. You have been a vehicle of God there and played your role perfectly. I did the same thing, but I'm attached to the karma. I either got some karma I've got to pay or suffer or something. And it's all because of what's happening.
Right, exactly. Same thing, same action.
Same action.
Arjuna can go into the battle he would go in the battle and get a lot of bad karma for what he had done. But
if he had gone in there as the doer,
he didn't.
No.
And that's the key.
Well, in fact, he got moksha, like you said, he got freedom.
He got freedom.
He was set free of all karma by doing his dharma.
And doing it without being attached to the results, and also having that equal vision. I mean, that's what, and being at peace. He was a warrior, but he was at peace. Yes. And that's really a whole different place than if he came out of revenge,
or fear.
It's a very different thing. And that's where the karma comes in. And then we just create more of our suffering, because we're getting another karma that we have to live out. And, but how do we perform action in this life? Because we do need to be active. We do need to do, but it's how we do.
Right.
We're required to do. We're in this. We're here to do something.
Exactly.
To be a vehicle for something. But it's not coming from the place of the ego of the doer. And the more that we tap into our that beingness or state of consciousness, then that's where it's coming from. And the inspiration is coming from there.
Yeah. And the karmic consequences are very, very different. This is a path of enlightenment, really reaching. We're talking about very high. I don't want to use a hierarchical thing, but very, very advanced area of Shiva consciousness. These states that we're going through, we're experiencing, we're practicing together to embody. And this is how enlightenment happens. How do you actually get out of the net of karma? What lifetime? How does it happen? What happens in that lifetime? Well, it's fundamentally your relationship with the karmic field you're within. And that is through our consciousness. Start practicing in this way. Start living your life in this way, in a very positive, creative, dedicated, energetic way. Less and less as the doer of it. Watch what happens with your clarity, but also in the karmic field, you are becoming free of karma. Yes. Really. Then we are agents of God, as Shirdi Baba liked to say, God's powers are vast and His agents are everywhere. And that's us. We're agents of our divine lineage and of God. We're trying, as a collective, to help each other to wake up to that. And then what will tomorrow look like when everybody has realized that? The day after Shivaratri, what will tomorrow look like? It'll look like a lot like today. In terms of your bedroom, your car, the shopping. Exactly. Probably your checkbook too. But something has fundamentally changed. And that is the goal of the knowledge that we're practicing and why we're so excited to be entering in now formally into this Shivaratri 2018 energy.
There's one quality, and we're talking about peace, silence. Because when we're talking about all these things, that we're talking about living in Stita Pragnata and being detached, and then being detached from our past, it brings us a lot of peace. Or when we see or we experience other people as ourselves, it brings us tremendous peace. We're not separate anymore. And our ego definition, our ego lines, they're getting dissolved.
It takes so much energy to defend ourselves as existing.
Yes.
Whenever you want to be right, part of you just wants to be proven that you exist. And that's the fundamental flaw there. Not that whether there's right, maybe you are right, but who are you? It takes a lot of energy. It's
to maintain that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Which is why when you free the past, for example, if we really look at our lives in that way, you get tremendous energy because you don't realize you're holding, which is actually, that holding is an attachment, right? That's where
it's a form of negative thinking.
Yeah, we hold experiences, we hold things that we're hiding, that we're afraid who we are, and we're afraid of things that we've done or thought, and we have judgments about. That holding is exactly what keeps us bound, And Swami gave us different techniques, which is basically talk to a soulmate. One of them is talk to a soulmate so that you come to that place of detachment, right? He gave that mechanism.
Well, also, it's a new karma. It's a sharing rather than holding.
Yes.
It's separate. It's a different karma. But of course, there's a lot more that goes in there.
But you're free.
Yeah, but you're free by releasing
it helps you look back. It helps you to look in a detached way because you're in the safety of a place with with a soulmate, and you have that energy, and you can really, when you're able to just look at it without any of that judgment, which is what a soulmate helps you to do, then it's released, then it's gone. Which is the great, that's what we need to do with all of our life and but live in that all the time. And so Swami gave it that way, through people and through how we needed to use relationship in order to come to that revisioning of the past, and be freeing from it. Let's go over our process.
Yes.
So deep inner peace too. When a simple way to connect to Shiva is just be peaceful.
Yes. Just be alone in the silence, in the nature. So much is so easy to uncover. I mean, most human beings know that about just going for a walk in the nature, going out and being by themselves, whatever. When they're just stressed, they're using Shiva energy there. Without an awareness, doesn't matter. Shiva doesn't care whether you know it or not, whether you know his name or not.
But you can always, just being silent is the answer to everything. It's the answer to everything. That if we can just go, whatever's running, whatever's happening, the answer is go to the silence. Then you'll find out what to do, and that's Shiva. And he's taking us out of the illusion, and being in silence makes the illusion. You detach from the illusion, and then you start to see, and then you start to see through Shiva's eyes, the consciousness, the eyes of consciousness. So shall we go over that practice?
Yes.
Okay.
So the program has begun, and we're within a week or 10 days, whatever that is.
Right. So for this process, people can do as much or as little as they want.
Exactly.
And if you can only connect on Shivaratri evening, that's fine. As we said, Shiva's easily pleased. But if you want to do more, prepare your consciousness for that, which is recommended if you can. There's some practices here. So there'll be a daily meditation with the sky prayer.
We'll start with the Sankalpam. The Sankalpam, and you can download this from the course online, one of the lessons, to awaken the consciousness of Shivoham in me. And that's just a fancy way of saying what we've been talking about. Shivoham, combination of the word Shiva and Aham. I am Shiva. It literally means that.
Right.
In a single vibrational word.
Right. So when the word for ego is ahamkara, right? So Shivoham is Shiva and Aham. So Aham. So you're, instead of thinking, I am
the doer.
I am the doer. I am,
Shiva is me, actually.
Yes.
Shiva is if we're going to derive the word.
Right.
So that's our consciousness. That's our Sankalpam, and every meditation, and when you're just thinking about this process, when you're joining the transmissions, whatever it is, when you're doing your Abhishek, just remember that again and again. Your consciousness is an energy generator. You're creators through your consciousness, with and without knowing it. And so you have a bunch of people with you now, all of us together, same Sankalpam, same process. We can lift very high together.
We have a daily meditation with a sky prayer, or sitting silently. So if your mind is automatically silent, just go in the silence. Or chant a combination of the two, either way. And a daily Abhishek with a Shiva Lingam. Now this can be really, really simple. Doesn't have to be an elaborate thing, because the whole idea is Shiva is easily pleased. So you could take one of your Shiva Lingams or your power or a Baba statue and do an Abhishek to it.
And that gets back to that characteristic of Shiva as the one who holds the poison, who takes the poison and drinks it in order so that we can receive the Amruta, the consciousness, the bliss. And Shiva, in this mechanistic understanding of what's happening, how is the poison taken, how is the negativity taken, how is the negative karmas taken out of our life, how is it handled? In that telling of it in the Vedic tradition, Shiva holds the poison in his throat, and it's so hot, it's burning, and it's painful. And so the mother, another one of the myriad forms of the mother, comes, Ganga, and sits on Shiva's head and then constantly bathes his throat with her water, her cooling water, so that he's holding that fire of the poison in his throat, and she's handling that. She's allowing him to take that and handle it with the water. So when we're doing Abhishek, we're using, whether it's milk or water or rose water, whatever we pour, the water element is there. And we are literally cooling Shiva's throat in order to have him hold our poison. Here you go. It's really about giving it away, isn't it? It's not about grinding it away one day after another. It's about, hey, Shiva, take it now.
Right.
Hey, Jesus, take it now. So we're doing that every day in an Abhishek, and that's really powerful. That Shiva Lingam structure is a yantra, a three-dimensional yantra, which is also a characteristic of Shiva. No beginning and no end. The seed, the egg, there's so much there.
Right, and that's our subtle bodies, the same.
Yeah,
that
our
lipa
aura.
is that egg-shaped energy, because we're the same.
We're eggs too. Shivoham.
That'll be a new kind of egg. All right, and then we have the two dharnas to do, which we talked about before. And then on Shivaratri day through the next morning, there is a process called the Shiva Purification channels that Swami gave, and it's from, as you said, a palm leaf manuscript. And you can only do them on Shivaratri.
Yeah, from Parameshwara Yoga palm leaf manuscript, actually. Yeah. And he taught these on a Shivaratri day in Penukonda, and he taught it about 3 p.m. And then immediately said, okay, everybody do these prayers, 10,008, get done before dawn tomorrow, which was pretty good and possible. So don't feel like you have to get them all done, or you have to spend all 24 hours trying. Like you said, if 2 hours is all you have, then use that 2 hours. It's really, really time well spent. Right. If you can spend 18 hours that day, that's your karma to do, and do it.
Right. But even if you do a short amount, that's fine.
Yes, it's totally fine.
And you can also do it during the fire puja. If you're watching the fire puja, you can continue doing that, because you can use that time.
Yes.
And that's actually what Swami did do also for us. We're going to do a Rudra fire puja, which is what we did in Penukonda then.
Right.
And he also said we could do those prayers during the fire puja.
Yes. And that's a purification. That's really about just wiping the slate clean, that puja. That's a very, very auspicious puja.
Well, and you'll find these in the course, because Swami gave some questions to think about. So if you're going to do this process, definitely recommend you look at these questions and answer them, because that will make your process much more successful. And he said this is to open your soul to do these. Think deeply on these questions, then write down your answers before Shivaratri day. What are the problems in your life? What is really torturing you? What is your dedication to the globe, and what do you really want to do in your life? Karmically, what have you done that you can't forgive yourself for? Like you really hurt someone and you can't forgive yourself. Or you really cheated your wife, you made her heartbroken, and then it made you feel guilty all the time. Write that down. Open your soul, open your book. So that's something to do before entering into doing the Shiva process.
Yeah, that's a great process. It's really good. Do that do this as early as you can in the process for this year.
Yeah, they'll give you time to think on it.
It's almost like a dharana. It's focusing our attention on aspects, and then already there's through that conscious witness, and contemplation, there's a purification starting.
Right. So we can also look at all the things in our life, like we talked about, looking at our past and looking at those things and saying, okay, I need to be released from that, and I need to let go of that, and but see them. You can't unless you observe them. You can't get anywhere.
No.
If they're hidden, you won't be free from them. So the idea is, whatever is left, whatever is there, do that. And then you can really make use of this, because it's a very powerful Shivaratri.
Absolutely.
It's in between two eclipses.
2 eclipses.
And everything on the planet now is the highest positive and highest negative.
Yes.
So
that's right.
now is the time to go for that highest positive and really access it.
It's the time of enlightenment now.
We can
it's
really
not
wake
just
up.
a play on words or a marketing thing, a night of awakening. It absolutely is that. There'll be hundreds of thousands of very dedicated saints and sadhus and sadhinis in India, in that part of the world, who will be throwing themselves into that Shivaratri, as they do over countless ages.
Oh, there's such celebration in India. And
I saw 1 million people going to one place on Shivaratri in Sri Sailam to touch that Shiva Lingam on that one day. And no exaggeration, it was really 1 million people. And that's the company we're joining.
Yeah.
So without being the doer and without having these expectations that things will only be good if I get full enlightenment, it's the time for full enlightenment. So we work for that together, and we let whatever happen, because these Shiva states are our birthright, and we already hold the seed of all of that inside. And this is the time for many, many people to awaken and embody that consciousness.
It's needed.
For the planet,
it's needed.
For your families, for your friends, but you can't help anyone until you know who you are, have clarity of consciousness. And Shiva is here to give that to us all, to this planet.
Shivaya, Shivaya Namo. Om Namah 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 Shivaya, Shivaya Namo. Shivaya, Shivaya Namo. Hara Hara Shiva.